The average solo GP is dead. Being handcuffed to a practice that only makes money while you're drilling crushes your freedom. Being trapped at the office is no way to experience life. And doing more fillings and crowns ain't the answer to freedom. Stop it. Freedom comes when your practice makes money without you. Freedom is choosing how many days and how you dental. Ready to forge your freedom? Then keep listening to become a super GP and super CEO. This is the Titanium Practice Podcast with your host, Dr. Stephen Freeman. Let's go.
Hello, all you beautiful people, and welcome to what surely will be the best episode of the Titanium Practice Podcast yet. I'm your host and personal freedom coach, Dr. Stephen Freeman. How y'all doing today? Thanks for joining me on this Thunderdome Friday, where we're just going to kind of talk about some random topics that hopefully will get you thinking as maybe you head off onto the weekend. I normally like to do these on Friday. So hopefully you are all doing something really cool this weekend, something with your family, creating experiences. Again, that is your number one job, to create experiences for your family, for your kids, so that you've got great stories to tell. You know, when you ever go somewhere and you meet new people, so many people have like these amazing stories to tell. And I used to feel like I had nothing to tell. Like people would talk about all these places they'd been to, all these experiences that they had, and I didn't feel like for a long time I was like, what am I doing with my life? Like, what am I doing? I didn't feel like I had anything cool to share. And not that I wanted to be cool, it just got me thinking about my life. I'm just like, God, there's a lot of people out there doing stuff. And apparently I'm not doing stuff. And so be mindful about that this weekend. And it doesn't mean every weekend that you need to be doing something incredible that blows the minds of all your family members. Just this past weekend, my kids I have a boy and a girl, and have a friend, boy and a girl. They go over to their house. They left at 7 a.m. They left at 7 a.m. and they always slam the door to the garage, and I can hear it, and then they fight over who's going to take their bike out first. And, you know, my son, who's a rule follower, yells at my daughter, put on your bike helmet, and you hear her yelling, well, that's stupid, I don't want to. And, you know, they get into this argument about it, and they do this every time. Every time they go to get on the bikes, it's the same exact thing. And they left, like I said, like 7 a.m. I didn't see them again until 5 p.m. So they're our very good friends. We hang out with the parents all the time. Son, daughter, same as ours. They all play. And that's what they did all day. My son and daughter came home exhausted and just wanted to tell me all the stories of all the cool things that they were doing. And there were other kids in the neighborhood that came over as well. And you want to talk about Thunderdome? Woo! Getting all those kids together. And I know all the kids. I know all of them. They come over to my house all the time. We have pool parties and things like that pretty much every weekend during the summer. And they were just talking about all the things they did, you know, from a lemonade stand to, you know, pretending to play this game Zombie that they like to play, and just being outside and being kids. And that's what they did. Now, chances are they're never really going to remember that day. In the grand scheme of things, they'll have forgotten about it. You have 1,000 of these days in your life as well where you did something fun, but you don't ever remember it. And that's okay. That's perfectly fine. But you need to make sure that every once in a while you're sliding those experiences in something big, something that they will truly remember. I try to do that about once a month. And I'm not perfect at it. Sometimes it's every 5 weeks, sometimes it's every 6 weeks. But at the same time, I try to do something big that they will be remembering the rest of their life. And I didn't really start out this podcast thinking I was going to talk this long about this, but I just want to make sure that you keep that in mind about, like, hey, when those weekends come, am I being intentional about what it is? My kids are younger. We're going to head up to Great Wolf Lodge in a little bit. It's this indoor water park thing. And, it's just, my son, they have this thing called Magic Quest, and he shakes this wand. And it's the same game every time, and he's beaten it multiple times. But we like to go do that when it's not warm enough to swim in a pool. Yes, it is sometimes cold enough to not swim in a pool here in Florida. But we like to go up there sometimes when it's a little cooler out and it's not really pool season yet, just so they can go swimming and have a good time and run around and go do that. But a pretty cool place to create some memories. And it's just an experience to remember. And they may not even remember this particular next trip, and they just might kind of lump all of the experiences into one. Like, I remember as a kid, we used to go to Great Wolf Lodge, and it was just one big memory, and that's fine. It's fine. But like spring break is also coming up. Are you doing something cool? That one should be a big one. That should be a big one. You should be thinking about that, and maybe it's even too late to do something too big, but even at that, there's probably somewhere you could drive to, get an Airbnb and whatever, and hang out with your family for a couple of days away from the office. You have to be able to do that. And if you can't do that, well, then you need to keep listening. Because that's my whole point. I am dedicated to your freedom so you can go and do cool shit like that. Whatever it may be to you guys. Whatever it is to you, you guys need to be going and doing those things. And if you don't have the time and you don't have the money to do those things, then you absolutely need to keep listening to me. Okay? So, longer rant that I was thinking about going on, but it just made me think about heading into the weekend and make sure you're doing those things. So again, I was kind of checking around the web, and I was looking at these things, and I was like talking about the idea of when and who should sell to DSOs. And I thought to myself, I'm just like, there's absolutely time to cash out. Someday I'll probably cash out. I don't know. I keep thinking my daughter keeps talking about becoming a dentist someday and taking over the practice. So we'll see what that ends up looking like. And I'm way, way, way a long ways away from that. But at some point in time, it absolutely makes sense. But I think to myself of like making sure you understand the transaction that occurs when you sell to a DSO. So typically what they're going to do is they're not just going to hand you a whole pile of money and say, thanks so much, and we'll see you later. What they're going to do is they're going to buy a portion of your practice. Let's say it's about 70% of your practice, and you're still going to hold on to 30% of that, and you're not going to get that 30% cash for a while. And what they're going to do is that they're going to hold that, and you're basically investing that 30% and hoping to make more money back, in theory, when they do what's called a recap, which is essentially they go back and they sell that DSO, or that private equity firm goes and resells that business and kind of rolls them all up into more offices. So they go out and buy more offices, and they're basically buying cash flow. That's what they're doing. They're buying cash flow, and then they want to sell that new amount of cash flow that they've acquired over that time between recapitalization events, which are typically somewhere around every 5 years-ish. And so they just keep rolling up more practices and look at more of this cash flow that I've got, and I'm going to go and sell this bigger amount now to a bigger company, and they're going to give us a lot of money for that. And then that's when you can potentially cash out at that 30%. And that's not really what I'm focusing on today. I'm not really talking about the deal structure of that. But what I'm interested in talking to you about is about selling. And again, some of you may have already reached an age where you're just like, you know what, I'm done. I'm ready to cash out, and that's fine. And I part of me is like, well, why are you listening to this podcast then? Because I'm talking about how to maybe hold on to your practice and make it what you want it to be. So I don't really think I'm your guy, but if you think you want to hold on to this thing for a while and make it something you want it to be so that you don't ever have to sell your soul, cool. Keep listening. Please do. But I can't think of anything that's more anti-freedom than selling to a DSO. Because what did I say? So that you sell the business. You sell the business, and now you continue to work at that business for probably at least another 3 years. You're contractually obligated to do that. So probably about another 3 years of an indentured servitude. And everyone's like, well, that's cool because like you can, as long as you get someone to guide you through this, you can sell to a DSO that you like, quote unquote. You like how they do business. And your advisors told you that, hey, these are actually pretty good people. They're not new to the space. They know what they're doing. They know how to take care of you. And that's all well and good. That's all well and good. No matter what, though, now all of a sudden you've got someone looking over your shoulder. Big Brother is in the house, looking over what you are doing. You normally need to hit certain criteria, goals, production-wise, to make sure that you are actually going to get either your initial amount, depending on what they ended up giving to you, or that other 30%, so to speak. Again, it's not always 30%, but just as a general idea, like if you're going to be able to take part in that recap event, which is where your money's tied up, you've got to make sure you hit certain goals. Well, I would encourage you to always be growing your practice in some capacity. That doesn't mean top line number revenue. It doesn't need to be revenue that we're talking about. But I would always encourage you to becoming more profitable, and I'd always encourage you to be moving toward freedom, where that practice needs you less and less. Which, by the way, if you want to sell your business, this is how you create a more valuable business. Because again, as we've talked about in the past, the great E-Myth, Michael Gerber, talking about the fact that you most likely have created a job for yourself, you have not created a business. They're two very, very different things. I have a business. That place does not need me. Does not need me. I'm hardly ever there. I normally go in just to, make people happy, so to speak. Maybe it's myself I'm making happy, I don't know. But just to check in on the place, make sure everything's running still. You just kind of walk around nodding your head. You notice the new people that they've hired and you didn't even know that they hired them. That is a business. I have nothing to do with hiring. I have no idea what it is, who they are hiring, or what it is that they need to be hiring for. And again, I've got like 50 people running around out there. And that business is not for everyone, but the point is that business does not need me. That is what a DSO is going to want out of you. They don't want you. They want your business or a business. That's what they want. And they'll hold on to you because they know it's a good idea. And associate turnover is the biggest issue that they've got. They'll make money as long as they've got a doctor there, which is why they're willing to overpay you for your practice. They'll pay you more than what another general dentist is going to come and offer you, because they know as long as they hold on to your practice, they're going to make money. So they are going to try to hold on to you. Having said that, again, Big Brother's now watching things, looking at your productivity, looking at the supplies you're ordering, looking at the labs that you are using. You're the business owner right now. You're the owner of the practice right now. Does anybody do that to you right now? No, they do not. Now, you may say, well, I've got this other shit to deal with. Like, all my staff just asked for a raise, and, this lady's going out on a maternity leave. And yeah, there's other, you're right. One of my favorite sayings is every solution presents its own problem. So if you sell, you no longer have to deal with that stuff. That is correct. But you now have a whole new set of problems on your hands of people who are now going to be looking over your shoulder and making decisions for you. That is the opposite of freedom. And so I said, you're eventually going to be part of this recap experience. Something's going to happen where they are going to sell your business again. So even if you had this advisor tell you, hey, these are the good guys, you'll be okay working for them. They know what they're doing. They'll help you out. It's going to get sold. So somewhere, again, on the order of about every 5 years, and we don't know where you were purchased at. You might have been 1 year into their recap cycle, in which case your business is going to be sold about a year from now. There might be 5 years to go until their recap, in which case you've got a longer runway with that group prior to that recap event. And so you may get to hang out with the good guys for a while, but there will be a day that you will be sold, and who the hell knows who is going to buy your practice at that point in time. It might be the bad guys. Do you want to work for the bad guys? I don't want to work for anybody. I don't want to work for good guys. I don't want to work for bad guys. I want to work for Stephen R. Freeman, DDS. That is who I want to work for. I don't want to take advice, or not advice. I don't want to take anything that anybody has to tell me and be forced to do it. I can take it under advisement, but not be forced to do something. You will absolutely be forced to do things when someone eventually comes along and buys your practice. Okay? So you need to be thinking about that. Don't be thinking about that first time. It is definitely the second time. And you may say, that's fine, I'll have pieced out before then. And that's great. Awesome. You don't need to worry about that then. But I'm betting a lot of you have a long way to go before you hit retirement. So it says the average age of retirement is 68 years old. 68 years old. I don't know about you, but if I've got a handpiece in my hand at 68, things went horribly, horribly wrong. And I do it again now more because I enjoy it than anything else. I do not need to pick up a handpiece. And there are days where I said, that's it, I'm not going to pick it up ever again. And then I'll have a run where maybe I'll see some nice old patients that I haven't seen in a long time and say, oh, that was fun. You know, we sunk a couple of implants on some titanium deficient folks, and it was a good time and we enjoyed doing it. So, we'll do it again. But that's it. I beat that a long time ago. So I think I was at about 42 when I didn't need to do that anymore. So I was about 26 years ahead of schedule of when I could do it. But there are parts of it that I enjoy, but I really don't produce very much anymore at all. So, for a long part of my career, I was up around over $2 million a year that I was producing. But that was, now it's very, very small compared to that now. But the point is that a lot of you probably have a long way to go, but that 68 number sounds awful. You don't want to be holding a dental drill in your hand to that point in time. That doesn't mean you have to sell the office, though. You don't have to be selling to these DSOs. Just create an office that you like. Hold on to the damn thing. It is one of the greatest tax vehicles you can possibly have, and that is your biggest expense. Everybody thinks it's payroll. It's not. Taxes are your biggest expense that you will have personally and professionally. That government is coming for your money, and you need to have a vehicle to protect it. There is nothing better than owning a practice to protect your money. It's amazing. It's an incredible thing. So for me personally, I say I'm going to hold on to the business because I've created a business I like. I hang out with those folks. They're nice. I like my employees. I only hire people that I like now. We had a rule that we set long ago. Does that person make your day easier or harder? And if that person makes your day harder, you might need to free up their future for them. Because everyone you pay should make your life better in some capacity. Their net overall value that they bring to your life should be positive. And if it's not, see ya. God, can you imagine paying someone that is a net negative on your life? And I know some of you've got them. I know probably a lot of you've got them and you're running around in your office. And that doesn't mean you need to be going out and you can go out and like have a great time with them, but they should improve your life in some capacity. It should be a net positive experience having them in your life. And if you're paying someone who's a net negative, I mean, that's just crazy. It's crazy. But that's what I've done is I've created a practice that I enjoy having so that I don't have to sell to the DSO, so that I have this great tax vehicle and I don't have to take shit from anyone. That doesn't mean I don't screw up. I screw up all the time. But man, at least they're my mistakes and they were what I chose to do. They're the things that I chose to do. And that is freedom. I get freedom to do what I want, and that includes making mistakes. And I've made a lot of mistakes. That's fine. You clean them up, you move on, you learn from it. Just don't repeat those mistakes again. But one of the things they were talking about why they wanted to sell, that some of these dentists wanted to sell, is they didn't have time to work on things in the office. They didn't have time to work on things in the office. That is literally what this podcast and what I do every day. I create time for you. That's my job. And so you may say you have no interest in doing those things, but I think a lot of those things are the fun things, to be honest with you. I've done pretty much everything there is to do in dentistry at this point in time. The dental part, I mean, it's just, if you do enough of it, it becomes either boring or you've done it. And what other challenge lies out there? I'm in the human game. I'm trying to do personal development of my kids, of the employees at my office. I told you in my Mission, Vision, Core Value episode, I talked to you and I told you that my mission is you win with people. You win with people. My mission is to improve the lives of the people around me. That's what I'm here for. That's why you're hearing the sound of my voice. It's what I do at my practice. It's what I do outside of my practice, and that's what I do on this podcast. Is I want to see you win. I believe in trying to create as many win-win scenarios as possible. How do I help you win? By creating time. They say you can't get it back, but you can certainly create it. And it is my job. It's literally in my name, Free Man. Creating time, letting you become free. You should be a free man too. Okay? So they didn't have time to work on those things. Well, I want to have time to work on those things. And if you create time, and what I'm going to tell you to do is that initially you're going to put in a little extra time. To make any change at all, you're going to have to put in extra time. You have two options. One, you can just drop the clinical part of it and you can delve into the world of CEO, which you know nothing about, and you'll see your income drop. Or the other option is put in some time and see your income rise by doing the specialty work, and you become the specialist in your office and see your income dramatically go up and the profitability dramatically go up in your office versus seeing a dip. I don't know. I think that's pretty obvious. You have a lot of consultants out there talking to you, no, let's work on the business. When you're too damn tired to do those things, you're not going to want to do it. You're a clinician. Be a clinician first, then we will teach you how to be a CEO. And as I like to say, a super CEO, and becoming a super CEO focuses on those experiences. The Chief Experience Officer. That's part of being a true super CEO, is focusing on those experiences. So they didn't have time to do those things. Well, I want to improve people's lives. So I've created the time to improve people's lives. And that's what I do. And that's what I focus on. And I would encourage you to do the same. Because a lot of your employees have not had a great life. A lot of them haven't. A lot of your patients in your office are scared. A lot of your patients have gone to DSO offices and have shitty dental experiences. What if we were to help raise this profession up? Consolidation is coming, and it's coming like a frickin' freight train. And I know why. I get it. I totally understand it. I don't like it. I think people should look at what they're really actually doing. But no one ever does because they don't have the time to look at what they're doing. So reactionary. So reactionary. One of these terms, and it's from The Simpsons, it's like, they said, stop being a human being and start being a human doing. And it's so cheesy. I mean, how cheese-tastic is that? I mean, it's stupid, and yet it's amazing at the exact same time. So I just think about, I always have this picture in my head of someone, kind of being flat-footed and just standing there, waiting for someone to run them over or come at them. And anybody who's ever played a sport, they kind of know what that athletic stance is. You're ready. You're kind of like on the balls of your feet. You've got your feet kind of split in a stance, and you're ready for someone or something to come at you. And you still may get your ass kicked and get knocked over, but at least now you've got a fighting chance. You're ready. You're prepared. You're being ready to commit to doing something. You're not just being there, you're doing something. And if you plan this out, and if you're intentional about it, we can get you that freedom, and you'll never have to sell to the DSOs. And again, someday consolidation is going to get up to the 80% number, but there will always be 20% that are private practice, and you can hold on to the business, make it what you want, and help elevate your patients from a shitty dental experience to an amazing dental experience. One where hopefully all the procedures are done in-house, so you don't have to refer them out. One of them where you have gone after your avatar, your ideal patient, and brought them in and had a great experience with them, which you can then have the profit then to be able to spend on your team members to give them great experiences, to then have the profit and go and spend that time and the money that you have margin of on your family and go create great experiences for them. So I want you to think about that. Selling to those DSOs is the exact opposite of freedom. And if you're thinking about selling to them currently now, again, I'm probably not your guy to talk to. But if you want to be on team hold your practice and keep your practice, I'm your guy. And I'm going to get you that freedom so you can go and do whatever it is that you want to do. And you may say, screw it, I don't want to invest in other people. I mean, I'll invest in my kids. I mean, you're kind of an asshole if you're not investing in your kids, to be honest with you. So I'm sure you're going to do that. But maybe you don't want to deal with that whole thing of having a bunch of employees and improving their lives and improving the patients' lives and whatever beyond, fixing up their teeth or whatever. That's fine. Don't care. The point is you need to have the freedom to be able to make that decision and choose for yourself. And you can do that if you've got more time, and I am going to help you create that time. Okay? If you would like to download our book, head on over to titaniumpractice.com and download Forging Your Freedom. If you're interested in getting more help with coaching, there's some spots there and some more information for you to get more information about doing that over at Titanium Practice. But always remember, I am dedicated to your freedom, and it is later than you think. It's one of my favorite quotes. It's later than you think. So you need to be thinking about making a decision, because it's about time to do that. All right? Again, I'm dedicated to your freedom. Get some help over at titaniumpractice.com, and I will talk to you again next time. Thank you all. Bye.
You've been listening to the Titanium Practice Podcast with your host, Dr. Stephen Freeman. Please hit the like and subscribe button and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Titanium Practice. Questions or comments? Send an email to info@titaniumpractice.com. Join us next time to help turn your average practice into a titanium practice.